still an all-star? And the reason I am proposing this question is because I saw a report that came out that I forgot who had said it, but someone I think from Bleacher Report had written rather, that they think Jimmy Butler will be one of the biggest fallers next season. And the reason for that is, he was saying like, the Warriors will obviously still be better with Jimmy, and they'll be a better team, with him, and he can help them potentially reach the championship level, playoff contender, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, he was saying that they're better with him than without him, but he was saying individually from Jimmy Butler's, physical, I guess, athleticism and probably statistics-wise standpoint, he was saying Jimmy Butler will be the biggest faller next season in terms of that kind of production and, I guess, athleticism. So I guess, again, like I proposed in the beginning, the question is, do we think Jimmy Butler will or is going to, have a fall off, so to speak, next season and not be an all-star caliber player? Because I believe he also said that Jimmy Butler is going to play like a fringe all-star. So that obviously means that he's still going to be good, but, obviously he's not going to be at the complete all-star level as he once was, according to, the reporter. So now that I, told you all the details, I personally don't necessarily agree with that. And the reason is, I think not a lot of people, but I think some people watched Jimmy in the playoffs, and because he got hurt in game 1 or 2 of the Houston series, I forget which one, maybe it was game 2, I think because people saw that, and then afterwards, he was really injured. Like, it was hard for him to play. Obviously, I'm not in the locker room, I don't know, but we know the kind of injury that he had. That makes it really hard for him to play, especially, he plays, kind of physical, and his injury would make it difficult for him to, play more of that physical style. So I don't think his play resembled a drop-off in his play. I think it was just because of the injury. Because if you go back and look, the way that he played in game 1 with Steph, he was incredible. I think he had like 30 points or 35 points or something. And then him and Steph both went for 30. And he was really aggressive and stuff like that. And if you watched the end of the regular season, Jimmy started to, be a lot more aggressive and getting to the free throw line and, doing what Jimmy does. If you noticed earlier before that, he wasn't as aggressive in that sense, the way that we usually are accustomed to him being in the playoffs. And that's because Jimmy is very smart, and I don't want to say coasts, because that's not like the right word necessarily, but kind of the way that LeBron, a lot of us, used to talk about how LeBron probably, still does today, but like that LeBron used to pace himself throughout the regular season because it's a marathon, as they always say. And so LeBron, as he got older, he knew if he, went too hard in the 82-game regular season, like if he was going all out every single game in October, well, not October really, because it starts at the end of October, but November, December, and that's not to say that NBA players shouldn't be playing hard during the regular season. I don't want to get into that debate. I am not saying that, like fans are paying money to see them, so I'm not saying they should just like, not try. But what I'm saying is like a regular season game is not the same as the playoffs. The stakes are higher and you need more energy, more focus, all that stuff in the playoffs. So you have to make it through an 82 game season. And so that means you kind of have to pace yourself, and it's not abnormal, that's normal. So what I'm saying is Jimmy, as he's gotten older, he does the same thing. He paces himself. So I wasn't concerned when Jimmy, maybe like the first, although the record spoke otherwise, by the way, because the Warriors had the number one defense with Jimmy the second half of the season. They were like top 3 in free throw percentage, free throw attempts, and percentage probably too. Like he brought all the statistics up. What I'm saying is like you didn't necessarily see Jimmy, being playoff Jimmy the first, I guess, month of him with the Warriors. I don't remember what his stats were, but I'm saying like that is how you pace yourself. You don't like not try, but like you can't go all out, when there's 82 games, when you're up there in age, because the body has limitations. Like these guys are not 22 anymore, it just, that is what it is. So with that being said, I don't think Jimmy is going to fall off next season. I don't think Jimmy is going to have any kind of physical decline, and I do think Jimmy Butler is still an all-star caliber player next year. Will he be an all-star? I don't know. The West is loaded. And again, he is more concerned, and the Warriors are more concerned with getting to the playoffs, being healthy, and winning a championship. Again, I am not saying NBA players shouldn't try. That again, I'm not in that route. I'm just talking about there's a difference between not trying and pacing yourself. And again, as you get older, you have to pace yourself. So I don't expect Jimmy to probably play, the first half of the season like a playoff Jimmy, If he does, that's incredible. I don't think his stats or those kind of things are necessarily going to reflect his impact on the team because he does so many things that don't show up on the box score. And again, the Warriors are just trying to win a bunch of games and get to the playoffs healthy. And again, when the playoffs come around, Jimmy will turn it on every single time. We've seen it. I don't know why people doubt him, because like he has done it every single time. So I don't think Jimmy is going to have a fall off. Now, obviously, I could understand why he said that, because again, Jimmy is like 36. He is getting up there. And I'm not saying that he has, the same, I don't even want to say stamina, but again, a 22-year-old versus a 36-year-old in terms of like, think about Anthony Edwards. He can go all day, every day, 48 minutes, right? When Anthony Edwards turns 36, that may not be the exact same case, right? That's what happens. So with that being said, I expect Jimmy to be just as impactful next season for the Warriors. Again, I don't know if his stats are going to be these crazy all-star caliber numbers. I don't know, but I don't think that really should matter, I guess. Like, as long as he's still impacting winning on the Warriors, and it's clear that he can turn it on, when the playoffs roll around, I don't think it really matters. And again, I think, he's probably going to be pacing himself. So you may look at Jimmy in the first half of the season and look at his stats and stuff like that and be like, oh yeah, he had, somewhat of a physical decline because his stats are going to reflect that kind of thing. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying if it does. I'm sure people will come to that conclusion. For me, again, it's all about the playoffs, and I really am not. It's kind of, again, going back to like LeBron. You can go to Steph Curry, although, obviously, um, LeBron and Steph are still putting up like 27 points per game and stuff like that every year. But for them as well, it's all about the playoffs. And like I said earlier, LeBron paces himself. We all know this. So if you don't think that LeBron is going to go into the playoffs with extra energy, that's just not true. Like, it's a different level. It requires different intensity, different focus, and different stamina, honestly. Like, it's tough, playoff basketball. And you don't want to run yourself down in the regular season. Longevity. It's a marathon, like I said earlier. So, will Jimmy Butler be an all-star next year? I don't know. Like, in terms of like getting the actual award, I'm not sure. Like, again, the West is loaded. I don't think Jimmy's really focused on that. Like, I don't think, not that he doesn't care, but like, I don't think he, is really focused on if he's an all-star or not. He wants to win a championship. So I think as long as Jimmy still impacts winning, like, you look at their stats next season and they're still top 5 in defense, top 5 in free throw percentage, top in assists, they're always up there and stuff like that. As long as everything looks good and they're winning games, and as long as Jimmy's not averaging like 2 points per game, which he's not going to do, obviously, I don't think it really matters. Someone said, talk about the Sacramento Kings. Well, I'll quickly say something about them. They're in an interesting position. I had done a live stream about them maybe like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or something. So they supposedly want Kuminga. So that is something that we'll have to be monitoring if that, ever ends up happening or not. But that aside, they're in a really interesting spot because you got DeRozan, you got why did I just draw Zach LaVine? I was like, what is his name again? You have DeRozan, you have Zach LaVine, and you have Sabonis. So you got 3 really good players. Like, those 3 players are really talented, really good, but like, for some reason, it's not like working, and I don't expect them to be that high up in the standings next year. That's my opinion. I could be wrong about that. And, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But like, I don't expect them to be, are they going to make the play-in? Maybe. If I had to say, I would say at the maximum, in my opinion, they'd be a play-in team, like 9 or 10. And I'm not sure if they're even going to get to 9 and 10, which is crazy because the West is just so loaded. So maybe 9, maybe 10. If they weren't even in that, I would not be surprised. So Keegan Murray, though, he's a future piece. So, he has been growing every year. And we'll just see what happens this year. But that's my opinion on that. So thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. I hope you enjoyed, and see you soon.